All right, thanks everybody for joining us today. This is the Internship Roundtable that I like to call Change Your Life with an Internship. We've got three awesome NAU alums joining us tonight. We've got Cheyanne Mumphrey. She's a journalist with the Associated Press. Say something.
Hello, hello.
Okay, good. All right, we've got Sam Klakulak. Like Sam, I always say your name wrong. Klakulak.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry. Sam works currently with the Valley of the Sun United Way in donor services. Say hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
All right, great. And then we also have, last but not least, Alexa Vagnazzi, who is the Fox 10 Phoenix social media manager. Alexa, tell everyone hi.
Hi, guys.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're just kind of do roundtable on this. We'll kind of go around, have everybody kind of answer some questions. If anybody has questions or wants to jump in, just feel free to do so at any time. Try not maybe in the middle of while someone has a thought, because it's hard enough, these days to keep on track. So first I thought I'd start with you guys just going through, telling us a little bit about your career path. And then we'll circle back around and talk about internships, and then some advice, and then we'll open it up to questions. Okay, so Cheyanne, why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of how you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am technically, my official title is a news associate for the Associated Press, and I'm located in Phoenix. So a little bit of what I do is rewrite our member copy for broader audiences. So in practice, what that means is I take stories that are written by various newspapers, radio stations, even TV broadcasts. I take those stories, I trim them down in bite-sized news bits, and I resend them out to every other member that we have for further distribution. And I also am now reporting and covering our global coronavirus coverage. And that's pretty intense. But I got here, I did my undergrad at NAU, did my grad program at NAU. I interned in that process. I, was involved in everything I possibly could be involved in, and met some people and networked that way. And that actually, helped me get this this job that I'm in right now. So yeah, I guess that's how I started networking, and my internship definitely helped.
Awesome. Alexa, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So like Angeli said, I'm the social media manager at Fox 10 Phoenix. I have been at Fox now since December of 2016, and I graduated 2016 May. I can't believe it's been that long now that I think about it. But before I was promoted to social media manager, I was originally, we called it back then, it was a digital social media producer. So basically that was someone who they just had me come in. I posted on all of our social media, and this was back when like our Instagram was it was awful, that we had no followers, nothing. And then I learned also how to write articles for the CMS, or the website, sorry. And so basically I was just, doing the grunt work, and then finally they promoted me to social media manager. And so now I oversee, or co-manage, I guess you could say, with our digital content director, and I oversee our team. And we basically make sure that everyone understands our social strategy, which is constantly changing. We have a brand new CMS. We work on the news app, the weather app. Sometimes I do fill in for everybody. And so that's kind of the gist of everything. And then like right now, like during election season, so I'm that person, I'm doing all the Photoshop graphics that we're going to be posting on Twitter, that you're going to see on Facebook, on Instagram, your app alerts. That's basically all me, and then along with our other digital content manager. But how I got this, basically, I didn't know what I wanted to, like, it was, I think my last semester of my senior year that I was like, I think I want to go into social media. I was always interested in news, but I just wasn't really into reporting on TV, wasn't my jam. And then I wasn't sure about print. So I found social media, and then I actually went for a lot of digital marketing jobs, but then I found the Fox job. I was like, ooh, I guess this could work. And I just applied, and they hit me up, and I got hired. That's how it worked.
I remember that like that was literally yesterday. That's so funny. Like you said, like, wow, I can't believe it's been so long. Me neither. I feel like it was like last year.
It's seriously crazy to me. I just can't believe it. And it was one of those things where I was like, why not? Let's just I remember applying for the job in my living room in Flagstaff and everything. Like, and yeah, been here since.
Awesome. Okay, Sam, why don't you go now?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sam Klakulak, and I graduated from NAU in May of 2019. So, my first job out of college is actually the one I'm currently at, also, and have been there for a little over a year. I had an internship that I got and applied to my last semester of college, and I also had an internship with Valley of the Sun United Way the summer of 2018 as their marketing intern, basically. That was a really cool experience because it was through kind of a connection with a professor at NAU that like helped me, get the internship at United Way. And what was super great is that it was their first internship that they ever did with a student. And it was kind of a learning experience for me, a learning experience for them. But ultimately, because of that, I mean, circling back over a year later, that's how I was able to get a job with United Way. I got my degree in Stratcom with an emphasis in public relations. And so going into United Way, I had a goal of getting my foot in the door because I knew I wanted to work with nonprofits. And I love, communications, marketing, all that jazz. And so I just wanted to get my foot in the door and kind of make it understood from that first point that I was very interested in working where I had to work, but moving laterally to a marketing role in some capacity. And so inconveniently with COVID, but also conveniently for my career path, our marketing team needed a lot of help. So right now I work in finance with United Way, which is not a finance person, but you got to do what you got to do. And so I work in finance, but my marketing, the content manager at United Way that was my supervisor at my internship, she's known all along that I wanted to, get into marketing. And so in March, at the start of COVID, kind of when everyone's, started working from home, they were really understaffed. And she reached out to me and basically said, hey, like we don't have a blog, like we don't have a blog writer, we don't have like a content person for our storyline. Would you mind helping us out? And so that was a great transition for me to start finding my way. And I started writing our weekly blogs. I was reaching out to our community partners to hear great stories. And basically all the blogs were as like good news in the world because it's a little bleak these days. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's been such a journey to like start helping them in March and like continuing on with that, and navigating how to storytell, which I never thought that was going to be something I was interested in. But here I am writing good news stories, quoting people, contacting via email and phone calls, our partners. So that's just a little showing you that you don't necessarily have to be right where you think you should be yet, and just kind of work your way there.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, let's do now where you guys all talk about maybe either an internship experience that you had. I know all of you have done different kind of stuff that maybe changed where you were going. Cheyanne, why don't you start? Because you've done so many different internships. You want to talk about that?
I definitely have. I probably can't even really count how many, like I would really have to sit down and count. But I think the one that really changed the trajectory of my career, I think, would probably be the Dow Jones News Fund internship. And that was kind of a program that fit you with, multiple different agencies, depending on like where you were, what your skill set was, and like what topic you were interested in. So I went into that program wanting to do digital media. And so I actually did an internship in Hawaii. Yes, it sounds just as glorious as it actually was. It was amazing. And I worked for Hawaii News Now, which is, one of their top, TV stations out there. It's kind of a conglomerate of multiple different stations, or channels, I should say. But yeah, it was amazing. I was, writing stories for the website. I was, doing a little bit of social media promotion. I picked up a camera quite often and kind of went out and shot my own stories as well, brought them back, edited the videos, did voiceovers, that kind of stuff. But predominantly my job there was to write and produce content for the website. And that was, incredible. Before that, I should say, I was very sports heavy, very opinionated. I started in, oh my gosh, an opinion writer in 15. It was 2015. And then worked my way up to assistant editor, then editor at some point for the Lumberjack. And then went into NAU Today and did some sports editing and anchoring and kind of just was all over the place. And then in my grad program, I was a sports information director for NAU athletics. So that was more of like a PR track where, I was, covering recaps, previews, record keeping, statting actual games, and I was covering all the sports there. Then I transitioned into social media. So I've kind of been all over the place. And that the Dow Jones internship when I was in Hawaii was kind of my first real experience in a newsroom. I didn't really cover news before that, and I fell in love and absolutely, realized the weight that news has in the world, and some of the stories that you can tell can have a real impact on people's lives. And so that's kind of why I wanted to go back into news. Like I said, on and off in sports, but eventually, love news. And that's kind of how I got here with AP. And, we're very news-based and very, accurate and factual and, very, right? It's if you know it, you know what I mean. And if you don't know it, you absolutely should look into it because, that's the standard of journalism these days. And so now a lot of what I've learned in all of my internships has been, how to tell stories, how to do it right, how to get your stories out there so people that are actually reading them, and it's not just you sending them to your family that's like, yay, props to me, like I read the story, mom, dad, look. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything, like I could go on for days about all the different internships I had, but that would be the one that changed my life.
Awesome. I was going to say, though, you say it's all rambly, but all those things really came together to kind of add up to your skill set. So you want to talk about that really quick, about how none of those things were really wasted time, though?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I did social media for an entire year, and not once did I think that I was going to actually need it. But, it taught me how to produce video. It taught me how to, graphic design. It taught me, all of my internships actually have taught me different parts of a newsroom and how they work together. And I think that's only made it easier for me to understand what my coworker next to me does and, the things that I should be looking out for to make everybody else's job easier, basically. And as a reporter, like right now I'm working on a story about, food initiatives and how to get fresh food to communities. But I think some of what I'm doing is I took some photos, right? So I know how to photo edit because of another internship that I had, and I know how to write because obviously that's what I've been training to do. And like I also was an editor at some point, so I kind of know what to look for when I'm writing. So like I'll write my story and then I'll kind of go back and edit it on my own before even sending it for publication. And even, there was some video aspects there, some audio components. So everything kind of really did come together, and I did learn a lot.
Nice. Awesome. Alexa, you want to build onto that from what your experience was in undergrad? Because I remember you in your NAZ days, and then you were like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was brutal because going in, like, and I remember this, it was, Teach was like my advisor for orientation. He's like, you should do NAZ Today if you want to get into reporting. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so I did NAZ Today, I think for like 2.5 years. And then I realized, I was like, I hate this. Like, I'm not meant for the camera. This is just putting on makeup. All of it was so brutal. And it kind of just, at the time I wanted to write, I wanted to actually be a journalist. And I felt like it was just ruining the experience for me. So then I did print, and thanks to actually Rory Faust, I was a stringer for the Arizona Daily Sun for, I would say, a year or two. I mostly did the girls' high school basketball up there. And that was awesome. That was a really great experience to see how that was. But I still kind of was like, I don't know what I want to do. So it wasn't until I actually like studied abroad and I took some time for myself. I was like, okay, you know, you got to figure it out. You're going to graduate. You got to, let's do this. And so then I got 2 internships. One was my last semester, and that I was a digital marketing intern with NAU Athletics. And that was like bare bones, let me tell you. Unfortunately, I don't remember who was in charge of it. His name was Paul, but I don't remember his last name. But it was good because I got to learn. What's his last name?
Muela.
Okay. I like, let me, don't remember. He was really nice. That's all I remember. He was very soft spoken. But you know, he taught me Photoshop, and that was like I mentioned, I use Photoshop all the time. But I went on a lot of like their shoots for photography and videography, and I helped post a lot. I did a lot of the actual like, my brain is dying, but the scoreboard and the advertisements at the game, like I was that person pressing the buttons. Like it was a really interesting internship, but I learned a lot. And then during that time, I became the social media editor, part of this team with Casey and Carolyn for the Lumberjack. We were the first social team. And that was a really great experience because that was the first time I kind of saw the cohesion of social media and, you know, I guess news. And I was like, this is a thing. Okay, cool. So I feel like at the time at NAU, there was only a few classes. I think Angeli's the one class in regards to social media and journalism. And then I did a PR minor. And so I learned a lot from Jerry Toll. Oh my gosh, I can't pronounce his name. I call him JT, but I learned a lot in his PR classes. And he talked a lot about like SEO, Google, AdWords, and he really got into the nitty gritty. And that's where I was like, I think this can be a thing. And then it wasn't until my second internship that was with a local marketing company in Flagstaff. It's called Mountain Mojo Group. And I got that internship because I was just working at a restaurant that summer at one of the golf courses, just making money. And I had a friend say, hey, I'm, you know, a graphic designer for this agency. They just opened. You should check it out. And so I went and I sent them my resume and I said, I will work for free. I was like, I do work 40 hours a week. I was like, but we can add more. Let's go. And they had me. And so I worked there and I became their social media strategist. And I learned so much. Like that's where I actually learned like content, you know, content acquisition, content creation, the whole content calendar, with how a social media manager works, you know, how to craft a post, how to have multiple clients and how to juggle those clients, how to go into these different client meetings, whether that was like a proposal pitch or just following up with them and really understanding what they want for their brand or this event that they're trying to promote. So that was great. And then eventually they did offer me, they were like, hey, we'll pay you $10 an hour. That was 2016, which is like $10 an hour. It's nothing, but, and that was great. It was a wonderful experience. And I know they're killing it now. And then I think I left them in November because I was like, I have to go down to Phoenix and I have to like find something that's actually going to be sustainable. And then that's when I just got Fox 10. Yeah. It's a long trajectory, but it worked.
Nice. That's perfect. And Sam, you also did several internships, and one of those was the Arizona legislative internship. Do you want to talk about how that one maybe kind of moved on to, or how it worked with your other internships?
Yeah, so I know, because that one's kind of random, I guess, in the big scheme of my degree and my past experience with internships. But yeah, so before I had the legislative internship, I was at Valley of the Sun United Way as their marketing intern. And I'll circle back to that one. But yeah, the legislature one. So that internship is super like you're full committed, you're moving down to Phoenix. It's basically a job, like an 8 to 5, no time off job. And that was honestly, I mean, that in that sense alone, it was a great learning experience to prepare for the real world, because it was my last semester of college and I had finished my capstone the semester before. I only needed 12 credits to graduate. And I remember working with you, Angeli, on seeing there was the Capitol news one, and then there was the legislative one. I applied for both, which was a super intense process. Also very beneficial though. I think it was, two interviews, one where they came up to NAU and interviewed us based on our resume and like a cover letter and like references and all this crazy stuff. And what really helped was going to the career development office. I hadn't been there until I was a senior in college, so highly recommend going sooner. They're so helpful there. I did like interview preps with them. They helped me build my resume, make it look pretty. And then the second interview, I went down to Phoenix, and it was in competition with U of A, ASU, GCU, and NAU. And they chose about like 60 students or so for the whole thing between the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I think what tied in for me the most for going forward in my career was the public speaking and the communication skills that you get from this internship, because every week we were in front of 30 or more people speaking to them on information that we had to research and bills that we had to research and find out, reach out to lobbyists or clients, or just individuals in general, and also be prepared for any questions that they may have for us about the bill. So it taught me a lot about not only being very what's the word I'm looking for? Very not afraid, I guess. I can't think of the word. It helped me not be afraid in front of a bunch of people to speak and to speak clearly and calmly and concisely. But also we had to take bills that may have been a page long in new language and make it concise into one sentence, so that we could tell the legislators what the bill was doing, because I mean they have a bunch of bills coming at them and they can't remember all this nitty gritty stuff like we do. So with regard to going into a nonprofit, going into marketing, I really took advantage of, the public speaking, and just I felt throughout college I was a really like fluffy writer. Like I love detail. I love like adding descriptors. And I think the biggest thing for me is learning how to break things down and just say, this is what it is, this is what you need. And I think that goes into, I'm sure like Cheyanne and Alexa can attest, like in the news realm, like you can't, and social media, you can't write paragraphs on paragraphs of information. You have to, make it so that the reader can see it quickly and get the point across. So that for me was a huge learning experience. It was also just very helpful in that transition period as well, going like from college into the real world.
Awesome. And how do you think that internship played with the one that you had before with United Way, which actually led to your position? Like, do you think that those two together actually helped you cement this cool job you have now?
Yeah, I do actually. So, I mean, with the marketing internship, it was a lot of storytelling and social media. Like I was doing social media stories on Instagram, Twitter posts, Facebook posts, and kind of doing that like storytelling, social media content aspect, and then taking that and pairing it with being able to not only just in general in a professional setting, honing in on your communication skills and like the way that you're able to present yourself, but also just the level of detail oriented that you had to be at the Capitol really helped me take care of the fluffy nature of when I was doing blog posts. So now, going from my internship at Valley of the Sun United Way to the internship at the Capitol, and then retrospectively back to United Way again, and helping them with marketing, I noticed the difference. And sometimes I can go back and look and like see my old blogs from 2018 and see the blogs that I've been writing currently. And I think that there's a lot more storytelling that allows the reader to kind of get through the information versus just like throwing it all out there in kind of this big jumble. So I would say just the writing aspect of it was so helpful for me. And learning how to mix storytelling, like fun storytelling, like happy stories, with also, you know, presenting accurate information and in a concise way.
Awesome. So this one I want to like throw out to you guys to decide whoever wants to answer first. Just like some general advice for students that are thinking, you know what, that all sounds good. I clearly need to do an internship, but where do I start? And then when I get one, what should I do? Like, what are the most valuable things that you like did while at the internship that actually helped lead you to career success? So whoever wants to start on that, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I just unmuted. I like that question. That's a great question. For me, I felt as though my sophomore year, I was very nervous and confused, and I didn't even have a resume put together. I was like, what do I put on a resume if I haven't done a whole lot yet? And that's when I was like, okay, like I need to get in gear. I don't really know where to start, but one of the things that I did was actually go to you and ask you for, you know, that kind of help, and really just put myself out there. You know, I wanted to get involved in any way. I wanted to start with like a little job here, a little job there, and just really like start communicating with your professors. I think first of all is the most important thing, because Janice Sweeter, I don't know if she's still there. Is she still at? Yeah, I love Janice. So she is the person who, you know, just honestly, as simple as this sounds, I would go in and have a conversation with her every day before class, and I would really communicate with her, and she got to know me. And, you know, by that happening, I kept in contact with her about, you know, I applied for this internship and I haven't heard back, or I didn't get it yet, or I didn't, you know, get it at all. And she was the one who was like, you know what, Sam, like I have an old friend who is the head of the marketing team at United Way. Let me reach out to her. Let me see what she says. And that ended up changing my entire trajectory of what experience I was getting. And so, I mean, first and foremost, just get to know people and make sure that you're getting involved in your classes and in school. And that, I mean, going into then my legislative internship, I wouldn't have known that it existed if I hadn't been, you know, talking to you constantly and getting to know you. And furthermore, taking the risk to, I know it can be uncomfortable to feel like, you know, you're going to the career development center, like who's going to help me there, what am I doing? But honestly, I, you know, like it was a lot of work, but going back there all the time and, you know, saying, hey, like, can you look at my resume, what do you think, you know, what do you think I should change? And then going to interview prep sessions where where they're teaching you, okay, maybe don't be so wordy about this, or be more detailed about this, because obviously practice makes perfect, and no one's instantly going to be a great interviewer, instantly going to know how to do a resume. So I guess overall, I would just say utilize the resources you have and just get to know people.
That's awesome advice. Cheyanne or Alexa, one of y'all want to add to that for internship stuff, getting them, or once you're there kind of advice?
Sure, I can go. I think my big thing is like, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that was one of my big problems, is that I was terrified of asking a dumb question, when in reality there are no dumb questions. Because it's just one of those where, you know, they're there. There's a reason why they have you as an intern. So ask them what you need to ask them. Like, hey, I'm interested in learning this. Hey, can you actually explain that to me a little bit more? Because it does help. And I think I still have photos of like the moments where I would ask my mentor and be like, hey, I don't understand this process. And I have pictures then he like wrote it on a whiteboard, like, no, this is how it works. And I would just, you know, just over and over, don't ever be afraid. Cause I think that's one thing that I had a problem with, is that, you know, I wanted to have fun in college. Like that's all I wanted to do. Right. No, I'm here to have fun, not thinking about my future. And one thing that I regret not doing is like not pursuing internships more. You know, not waiting until my last semester, or not even using like the career services center. I probably didn't even know that existed. Or if I did, I was just like, man, whatever. And that's something that like I look back on that and I just, you know, I kick myself. Granted, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm glad, but it's one of those things where like you don't realize while you're there, like, oh, there's these incredible resources. And then also networking, because that was my big, like I got my two internships based on networking and meeting people, especially like in the SMC and in the comm building. So. But I would just say, like, while you're in your internship, like you're there for a reason. They want to teach you. They're not just, you know, I feel like the classic thing is like to get you coffee. Like, no, I feel like that never happens. So just don't be afraid.
Oh,
Yeah, Cheyanne, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I will say there's been at least one time where I've brought lunch for the office, but like, you know, it doesn't happen. It's not like the movies. But yeah, I mean, I've had a very, I would give very similar advice. I, you know, I didn't really know what internships could do for me because at the time when I was in school for my undergrad anyway, I wasn't really sure where I was going. I mean, I even switched majors, so like I didn't even know what I wanted to do, right? So I think like as long as you're trying and you're making an effort to learn as much as you possibly can, that internship doesn't have to be in Hawaii. You know, it doesn't have to be like at the state capitol even. Like it could be, you know, with your professor. Like you can set something up. It can be, you know, with a club on campus. Just ask for those opportunities. If there's something that you're interested in, you can tie it into that. I was super into like going green and the environment. I shouldn't say was, still absolutely am. And when I was at NAU, I looked at, you know, the Green Fund, and I, you know, even forgot about to mention this earlier, but like I worked for the Green Fund for, oh man, maybe a year. And I was like event planner, event coordinator, and like that, you know, that's like not really what I wanted to do growing up. It's not really what I wanted to do now as a career, but like I definitely learned a lot about planning and organizing in that time. And like it doesn't have to be labeled an internship either. That's another thing that like I think is a common misconception. Like you can go into something completely like volunteering even, and you can classify that as an internship if you're learning and you're getting something out of it. So that's one thing. And then I definitely think like absolutely connect with people. It is unreal how many, like people always tell you like it's all about who you know, and like to some degree like that's absolutely true. And if you know, just say hi or take the extra step, like if someone's asking you like, you know, how are you doing, like, oh, I'm doing well, like, you know, I'm doing this right now, what are you up to? And just like, you know, you can even talk to the people in your class like, hey, have you looked at any internships recently? Like I'm looking for something like this. You may even, the person sitting next to you, I mean, maybe not now because of COVID, but the person sitting next to you could absolutely be looking at or saw an internship that you would be interested in, and vice versa. Like you can share that information. You know, the reason why I got the Hawaii internship was, you know, talking to Angelique. I didn't even know what Dow Jones News Fund was when, you know, like we brought it up. I, you know, took the test. It was a pretty long process, but once you get through all that and you actually get to your internship, and I'm still doing it now with my real job, is like talk to everybody. And I don't care if it's like the person that like is the security guard, like literally talk to everybody, because you don't know what they know, who they know, what advice they may give you, and it all can be very beneficial. You know, when I was at Hawaii News Now, like you know, I started in the newsroom and talked to all the digital people, right? And then I talked to, you know, our video crew, and then I talked to our more print focused crew, and then I talked to our photographers, and then I talked to the anchors, and the next thing you know, I was working the morning show and talked to every single one of them there. And I, you know, to this day, like I can call any of them up, probably not any of them, some of them aren't there, but most of them up, and just say like, hey, how are you? What are you doing right now? Like, I saw this story that you worked on. Like, and the other thing too is like, don't always go into networking or, you know, meeting someone with the intent of getting something out of them. Because that could be like a huge turnoff for a lot of people. And quite honestly, it's very easy to tell if someone's just reaching out to you to get what you know. Like follow up. I can't tell you how many times like people have called me and they're like, hey, what are you up to? And I'm like, oh, you know, just working, hanging out, doing whatever. And they'll be like, hey, can you do something for me? And, you know, sometimes I'll say yes, sometimes I may be busy, but I'll never hear from them again. And like, you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person who's like, oh my gosh, I remember her. She was so helpful. Or I remember him, like he helped me out and I'm going to help him out now. So, you know, just not only make those connections, but cherish those connections. Cause I think, you know, that's how you build your network.
That's excellent advice. This has all been so great. And I don't want it to go on too long to take too much of anybody's time, but I do want to open it up to our current students who are joining us live and see if anybody has any questions that they wanted to ask. It can go anything that was covered, anything that we haven't thought to talk about, like ask whatever you're wondering if you have questions. Do any of you guys have something? Oh, Stephanie, yeah, I see your hand raised. Sorry, go for it.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So I'm not a comm major. I study Parks and Rec and sociology, but there is this communications internship that I just got an email about because I applied for the summer one for summer 2020. And then they had to cancel it because of COVID, but they followed up and they sent another one and they're like, we have this internship available remotely from January to May or whatever. But I just don't know if I should apply because it says in the email like they're looking for juniors, seniors, or grad students, but I graduate this semester. So do you guys have any advice on if I still should or if I shouldn't? I don't know.
Yes. Okay. Somebody else say something though. You should apply. Go for it. Somebody else.
Yeah, I would say even if it's not your background, like I said, this might be the exact opposite situation, but I did work with the Green Fund and I was like, I don't know what this is, and I like plants clearly, and I like the environment, and sure, I'll give it a try. But I think when you do that, and if you do decide to do it, just make sure that you're very upfront with yourself about what you know and what you don't know. Because if you don't know something, then learn it or ask for help before you do it. But I think everybody needs to know how to communicate at some point. And I think that as long as you know how to carry yourself and present information, I think you'll do great.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, Cheyanne, I had no background knowledge on the legislature. I'm talking none. I didn't, that was never in my wheelhouse of something I even thought I would make it to the final round of interviews. We had to do a spelling test and a grammar test at the second interview. It was terrifying. And honestly, there were a couple of moments when I was applying for it and, that was going to be I also was gonna, had to figure out what I was gonna do with my classes for my second semester senior year had I not gotten it. And there were moments where I was like, maybe should I even apply to this? Am I gonna benefit from this? And it ignited this passion in me for not only policy, but just the communication skills you get from something like that is so important, and it'll carry with you into any job that you go into, especially with communications. So I think just because it's not necessarily in your wheelhouse doesn't mean that you're not a candidate for it, and definitely doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply for it. I think that you should go for it. And like Cheyanne said, I always am up again, just be upfront about, I'm not a communications major, but I would love to learn about it. I would love to ask questions. I would love to add that skill set to my wheelhouse and to really be an asset. And you have to learn first before you can be an asset in any situation. And so I think that if you present it like that to them, if you just kind of say, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grab the bull by the horns, that I think that that's really an attractive quality to people looking for interns.
The process too can also be helpful. Just getting your resume together and going through the interview process is also very helpful.
It's never too late to have an internship.
Yeah,
Never.
Exactly. Right. I think all three of you are great examples of that. And hopefully that is motivating you, Steph, to go ahead and say yeah, maybe I can do it. But also I want to add, like, don't sell yourself short just because you're not a major in something doesn't mean you don't have a lot of those skills that you've been gathering through your time. So, I mean, you're in a bunch of different classes. Just because it's not necessarily your major or main focus doesn't mean you don't have something to add to that organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. You have any other questions from anybody, or did you have a follow-up? Did that answer your question, Steph?
Yes, I feel so inspired now.
Um,
I'm going to apply tonight. I
yeah.
really need to. I'm going to run out of time if I don't.
Well, clearly, I would say go over to career services. Like, they have online appointments. Just because it's COVID doesn't mean things are shut down. All those things, all those resources are still open. And they all have online appointments and all that stuff's free. So you might as well give them, like Sam was saying, give them a pass, right? See if they can help you out. If they can't, let them know your deadline before you apply, and maybe let that be your starting place. And so, like, apply for that one. Well, you might as well apply for some other ones that are out there. There's a bunch of stuff. I try to gather stuff on Twitter under hashtag #comgigs, but there's so much more than that I even come across. You can go on to, I try to go on LinkedIn and sort for communication internships. And there's so many that come up now, even more than ever. So that's so many negatives about COVID out there in the world. But one awesome thing are all the opportunities that are now available to anyone wherever they live. Because all of a sudden people are realizing that geography is not a limiting factor, that maybe they can actually expand to anybody, which is really super cool. So kind of like look out there, like, what do you really want to do? And if you don't really know, totally fine, but say like, oh, that organization's cool. Maybe they have something. You can just go onto people's web pages and just check those out. Do you guys have any advice on finding internships that even if you maybe don't know what you're looking for?
I just want to add something. It's not that question, so I do apologize for that. But I think once you find an internship that seems appealing to you, or even one that you're like, I don't really know what that is, see if you can find other people who've done that internship. Because I, like, even to this day, like, I've thought about applying to fellowships and the like, and I've reached out to people who have either had that fellowship or internship or have applied and maybe didn't get it. And their advice is always useful because they've gone through it, they know what to expect, and they can give you, a little bit of a head start before you apply.
That's such good advice right there. Yes. And never stop with that advice, applies to every job ever. Sam or Alexa, you want to add anything in there?
Go ahead.
I mean, honestly, I just feel like anytime I was looking through, granted, this was 2016 before that. So I feel like I was just constantly like checking what NAU had available for the most part. But I mean, now you have you have LinkedIn, but you also have you have Glassdoor now. And you have, I forget what the other one is, but one thing I did used to do is I actually used to look at other colleges' resources because I found that they were public. Especially ASU, like that was one thing. Cause I knew Walter Cronkite had so many opportunities. Like at Fox, we have an intern. You interned with us for like 3 years. And then we did hire her actually. And it was through the Emma Bowen Foundation. And now like all of Fox television stations has partnered with the Emma Bowen Foundation. And so basically they have a digital intern at every single station. And that's one thing that I guess I never would have known. Obviously until this position, but back then I probably would have been on the Cronkite site and been like, okay, what are the, these kids doing? Or I would check, other journalism school. I think I would used to check like the Missouri Journalism School, right? And I would check their online resources just because, it's different. It's a different part of the country, and why not?
Yeah, and just to add to that, other than the connections that you make, with professors and with other students, I looked on Indeed and Handshake and LinkedIn. I was constantly, honestly, even when I was job searching, I saw more internships than I would have thought just while looking for actual jobs. And you just never know what you're going to find. If you like think of something that's interesting to you, like if you're like, you know what, I want to do some sort of like, because I really wanted to, when I was in college, I was like, I want to work for TED, like, TED Ed, TEDx. I was so excited. I was like, so I just Googled them and saw like maybe they have internships on their website. So, if you like know a place, and if you don't, obviously that's totally fine too. And just like, look on all the job search places in LinkedIn, because there's a lot on there. But also if like you have a place that you're passionate about, go onto their website and see what they have to offer. Because sometimes there may be a direct, link to them having an internship that you wouldn't have known that may not be on other sites. So that's what I would throw in there too.
Sam, you said a good point. Like I will just tell you, you kind of heard all of the different internships I've had. Well, I applied to 74 jobs before I got this job. And I have an Excel sheet of all the different jobs, right? And I broke them up into categories because it was slightly overwhelming looking at all the applications that I had filled out. But like, this just goes to show you that you don't have to major in the thing that you're applying for. Because like, I applied to social media manager roles. I applied to, digital producer roles at TV stations. I applied to reporter positions for print papers. I applied to reporter positions as a TV reporter. I applied to, even PR jobs for, companies that I knew I could, do their social media and do their graphic design. Like, I literally applied to everything you possibly can imagine within all the different little skills that I had learned. And I may not be like, an expert in one, but like, I've made it a point to try to be like really like at least good at all of them, and then be like excellent at like maybe 2 or 3. But I think like that same thing can be applied to internships. I mean, obviously, like, try not to apply to like over 50 because it gets a little overwhelming, but if you have to, do it. But I just think that like, if you're gonna be in a position where you're looking for something, like, don't stop looking for something, especially like you're gonna get rejected a lot. And if you're not rejected a lot, God bless you. But like, if you are, then just keep moving along. Like I just told you 74 jobs, and I didn't even get my first interview, I think. So I had applied to maybe like half of those and didn't get an interview in like the first month after I had graduated from grad school. And so like, that just goes to show you right there, like, you were going to get rejected a lot. And you may think you're the perfect fit. And like, just like Sam was saying, like, she went to TED, I went to Oprah's magazine because I was like, I absolutely love her. I'm going to work for her. This is going to be great. And I literally, like, it was the fastest rejection, I think, in my entire life. Like, I had applied and I got a rejection within like 2 hours. Like, it was like the fastest rejection of my life. And I was so defeated. But like, I could have just like I was just like shocked, and I spent the day like moping around, and then the next day I applied to like 10 more internships or 10 more jobs, because like, you can't just give up if you like don't get something. And so yeah, I just had to say that because my experience was pretty intense.
No, that's excellent. Because a lot of the times I'll have students like think like, well, obviously I'm going to get this one job and I don't want to risk it by applying for other stuff. And I'm like, no, you have to, don't waste your time applying for something you definitely wouldn't want. But I would also say, build on what you guys have all said, open your mind to like, what would you really love to do? And like, allow yourself to apply for those things, even if they don't fit inside some kind of box. All right, to wrap this up, are there any other questions that anybody else has that they want to throw out here? You don't have to even raise your hand. You can just shout them out. If not, we'll kind of wrap it up and have like final thoughts here. Anyone else? Okay. So do you guys have anything else you want to add that I haven't asked you or somebody else hasn't asked you, but you're like, I wish somebody had told me this back when I was in college, whether it's undergrad or graduate?
I just want to say kudos to you all who are here right now listening to this and who will listen to this in the future, because like, this is a great step. And I don't know if anyone's told you that, but this is huge. And I will definitely offer my services. Like, if you want to reach out to me, my DMs are always open on Twitter. if you want me to look at a resume or whatever, like, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, I definitely piggyback off of that too. Like, if you guys just have any questions, you know, Angeli has our contact info. I'm on Twitter, you know, like whatever, you know, any who's watching this needs, I agree with that too. And I think just one last thing that I feel like I would have loved to like think of sooner. Maybe most people do. I just didn't. Like, I didn't join, and this isn't even like about internships, but like clubs at school. There are so many clubs that like you can even start your own club actually if you find like a sponsor for it, like a, you know, a teacher sponsor for it, and you know, people, and go through the process. But I know that my experience in school and like what I got out of it and those connections and those relationships would have been 10 times more, you know, beneficial to me had I done that sooner. But joining clubs my junior and senior year, I mean, that a club I joined the Blue Key Club for volunteering, and that little like I just went on Saturdays to volunteer and clean up trash on the highway and stuff. So, but like that piece right there, someone who interviewed me for the legislative internship saw that I had that, and she was in the same club at NAU. And so it's just like these little things that you don't even realize, like you don't know how they can benefit you. And it's just a great way to, you know, not only build your resume, but also like make connections with people that like you may even continue on after college. So that's just one more thing I'd throw out there. Is not even internship aspect, but like clubs also.
That's awesome advice. Alexa, you want to add anything in there? Oh, I see. I just will say this. I'll read it out. Steph tells everybody she's in CK. Okay, Alexa, you want to add anything?
I don't have too much to add, but I mean, same thing. Please feel free to reach out to me. I live on social media at this point. So literally, I think Cheyanne and Angeli see my rambling tweets all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, I think my big advice is like, I just always tell people, just don't be scared to take risks, because I feel like I should have done way more risks, so many more. Like I was like, I don't want to leave Flagstaff. I don't want to go intern anywhere else. I don't want to leave. I just want to, and just don't have that mindset whatsoever, because it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. You know, that's just me.
That is excellent advice too. I think that taking that leap is always hard, especially when it's so comfy up in Flagstaff with all the seasons and everything. You're like, oh.
No, exactly. Yeah. And cause I was like a server, and I was like, well, I'm making good money. Like, and you know, it was a great experience dealing with people, of course, but like, I think I served for like 4 years. I mean, I was a manager of a restaurant. I served for a bunch of years, but like, I could have actually been doing something with that summer, you know, it was a good time. But at the end of the day, like I look back and I'm like, it's because you should have taken a risk, Alexa, come on. But so don't do what I did.
Hey, you can learn right? You can learn positives from every negative too. That's the perfect way to look at that too. So
exactly.
Helping someone else out. So for everybody watching this, if you're seeing this on the NAU internship website, there will be these 3 lovely ladies. I'm going to have their Twitter handles underneath the video so that everybody can reach out to them on Twitter. And then you can Google them for any other platforms you may want to see them out on. Right. But definitely I will echo all that. Reach out to people. Do not be scared. Like take that chance. And also if you're professional, nobody's going to be like, why are you reaching out to me? Because I don't know a single person that works in any comm field that did not get help from someone and is looking to give back. Like everybody's always paying it forward, and nobody's like, how dare you reach out to me? And if they're like that, you don't want their help anyway, right? You just find someone else. So that is the last thing I'll say. If anybody has any other questions, you can email me. You can reach out to any of us on Twitter, including myself. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Maybe go watch that debate. Maybe not. Depends on what your evening has.
Thank you, Angeli, for this.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back to NAU too.
Of course.
Anytime.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.